Hello, and welcome to Concordia University's World of Pharmacy, where we talk about all things pharmacy related. This is episode 4 of our series on the pharmacists who invented soft drinks, and here we'll talk about Coca-Cola. If you haven't heard of Coca-Cola, I'd really like to meet you because you're definitely unique. It's been suggested that Coke has the most recognizable brand name on Earth. How did it get to such a lofty position? Well, that's a very long story, and you're not going to sit here for an hours-long video, but I'm going to tell you about the origin of Coke with a pharmacist, and about another pharmacist who made it a huge hit. John Pemberton was the inventor of Coca-Cola. He was born in 1831 in Georgia, and graduated from the Southern Botanical Medical College in 1850 with a medical degree. If you've never heard of that college, it's because it no longer exists, but at the time it was a good place to attend if you wanted to know about herbalist treatment, which was very big at that time, and about traditional medical techniques as well. He decided to pursue pharmacy as a medical career and opened a drugstore in Columbus, Georgia. He was successful there, but in 1861 the U.S. Civil War started. Pemberton joined the Confederate Army as a cavalry officer and became a lieutenant colonel. However, he disliked the regimentation of Army life and so switched to the Georgia militia and was assigned to guard the city of Columbus. His moment of action came with the Battle of Columbus in April 1865 in what may be the last battle of the Civil War. If it wasn't the last one, it was awfully close. In the battle to resist the Union invasion of the city, Pemberton was severely wounded with a bullet and a saber wound to his chest. He survived, but had to deal with pain for the rest of his life. You may recall that James Verner of Verner's Ginger Ale fame was a Union cavalry officer, and maybe you're wondering whether they ever faced each other in battle. I can't say with certainty, but I think it's highly unlikely. After the war, he opened a drugstore in Atlanta, but this one was not as successful. To increase his income, he concocted a wine cocaine drink and sold it by the bottle. If that sounds strange, remember that cocaine use was legal at the time and used openly. The wine cocaine mixture was a hit, and he used the money to open the Pemberton Chemical Company. He probably started to experiment with soft drinks when the temperance movement was growing, figuring that sooner or later they would ban the wine part of his product. He was worried about the alcohol part, not the cocaine part, so he put coca leaves or extracts of coca into his drinks. The other hot item at the time was the cola nut, which was known to have a little theobromine but a heck of a lot of caffeine. Add in some natural flavors, and he had the makings of a good drink. When he added soda water, it made a fun drink. Adding sugar countered the bitterness of the cola extract. He attracted several investors and started to make a pretty good product. They rolled it out in 1886, just after the start of Dr. Pepper, and named it Coca-Cola after the coca leaves and the cola nut. Not long after, John Pemberton fell ill, probably as a result of his war wounds and the morphine he used for the pain. He died in 1888, just after selling the rights to investors. One of these investors was Asa Griggs Candler, a successful pharmacist who bought in because it helped get rid of his headaches, probably because of the caffeine. Gradually, he bought out the other investors and proceeded to turn Coke into a huge commercial success. He also got rid of the cocaine and the cola nut ingredients, adding in manufactured caffeine instead. You may have heard that Coca-Cola still has traces of cocaine in there, or even that you've heard it has a lot of cocaine in there. This is not true. When Mr. Candler took over the company, he reduced the amount of both the cola nut extract and the cocaine to trace amounts, just basically because he wanted to keep the name as Coca-Cola, and he didn't want to be accused of false advertising. Sometime after that, they got rid of all of it, and nowadays, basically all you have is the phosphoric acid in there, the flavors that we don't know exactly which flavors they are, and a lot of sugar. So it is cocaine-free. The majority of the ingredients became the flavoring oils, which famously are held as a proprietary secret. He also created the Coca-Cola Company and greatly increased the advertising. Of course, there's a lot more to the Coca-Cola story, but let's summarize by saying that Coke has always been intent on market share, on expanding sales worldwide, and on aggressive marketing. The brand is so well known that it is pointless to sell the product on the basis of its own qualities. Everyone knows what a Coke tastes like. Instead, the brand is sold because it's very well known, and also on how it makes you feel. That is, their commercials make you feel happy about buying a Coke. The Coca-Cola Company owns a surprisingly large number of bottled products around the world. Over 500, as I hear. If you're in Atlanta, be sure to drop by their museum. It's fun and interesting, and you can do your own taste test of many of their brands. Now it's time for the Coca-Cola taste test. The problem with that is everyone's had one at some time. If you didn't, you're very unusual, I would say. This also makes it kind of easy for me because I don't have to tell you a whole lot about it. You've had one before. What we've got here is the quintessential soft drink that's out there. Certainly the quintessential cola. It's the cola against which all other colas has to be measured. Right? Let's talk about it a little bit. Here's your nice Coca-Cola bottle. It's got that classical shape to it, the nice curvy shape to it. It's been duplicated somewhat by others, but it is the classic Coca-Cola bottle shape. I was almost going to get a glass bottle of this to show you the real bottle shape, but you've probably seen that before as well. All right? Why is it in that shape? The reason for that goes all the way back to about 1915 or so, when they certainly had bottles of Coke, but they've noticed that what usually happened in those days, since they didn't have a lot of refrigeration, what they would do is to take a whole bunch of bottles of whatever sodas they had and throw them in a great big bin that was filled with ice water, and that kept them nice and cold. That was the refrigeration of the day, back around World War I, that area. So what would happen then is that the paper labels that were on the outside of these glass bottles would probably float off. After a while, they just get destroyed and float away, and all you'd have is just the bottle. So what people would do is just dig around inside of the ice water until they found a cola, something that was, there's nice and dark. That must be a cola. Maybe it's a root beer. Who knows? And they just pick that one. And what the Coca-Cola people figured out was, we don't want people doing that. We want them to deliberately pick a bottle of Coke. And so they made a shape that you could detect even in a great big vat of ice water. It's got that curvy shape to it that you can feel. You can even pick out that shape in the dark if you wanted to, although that's probably not going to be something that comes up too often. Anyway, that's the classic shape, and that's the reason for that. Let's take a look at the thing closer up. There's the color of it. It's a nice caramel color, of course, right? And that is also something that I think they've perfected. When you take a look at how the light hits it and everything, that's just the right darkness for it, right? That is just the right sort of shade, and it's certainly been duplicated by others, but there's just one more thing I like about it. So let's see, what does it taste like? Let's find out. It tastes like a Coke. Here's the thing. Coca-Cola does not have a strong flavor. It doesn't have an aftertaste, at least not a heavy one, that's for sure. It's cold, it's wet, it's a little sweet because it's a regular Coke. We'll talk about Diet Coke a little bit later. So it's a little sweet. It's almost like a better version of water when you get right down to it. Whatever the ingredients are in there, they all blend together to make an interesting flavor, but not an identifiable flavor. That is the genius of Coke, if you ask me. It tastes just different enough from water to be interesting. So that if you want to have something during the day, you could have a water. And there's waters and waters. We can't get into that today, but there's lots and lots of waters. You probably want a mineral water that has a little bit of taste to it. You certainly don't want plain water. You certainly don't want like a distilled water. If you don't believe me, try a glass of distilled water and you'll probably spit it out because it has no dissolved minerals in there. You can have water, but this is a little bit better than water. All right? Yet it doesn't have an identifiable taste to it. Because of that, it doesn't have a bad taste. Think about it now, or ask around. Do you know anyone that says, I don't like the taste of Coke? I mean, I can't stand the taste of that product. I don't know anyone that says that. Some people will prefer Pepsi. We'll talk about that next time. Some people will say, I'm just not a big cola fan. Some people will say, it's okay, but no one says, oh, I hate it. That taste, oh, it's awful. No one says that. Right? So that is the great thing about a Coca-Cola. The blend of the flavors there is just enough to make it a flavor. It's flavored water, if you really want to get down to it, a little bit on the sweet side. And it's no one thinks it's bad, so everyone thinks it's at least acceptable. If you went to a party and all they had to drink was a Coke, you'd say, yeah, I'll drink a Coke. That's fine. Absolute genius. That's what has made it into a huge worldwide favorite. It is just that perfect for drinking. Some people will drink these things all day long. I do not recommend that. It does have a lot of sugar in it. You probably don't need all that sugar. You probably don't need all that caffeine. If you can, get the caffeine-free Coca-Cola. I'll recommend that. In my humble opinion, and this is not one of them, by the way, sorry. I just picked it up at the store. In my humble opinion, though, the caffeine-free Coca-Cola tastes every bit as good as the regular Coca-Cola. It's great. The unfortunate thing is I rarely see it in a restaurant, either in a fast food restaurant or a regular restaurant. They rarely have the caffeine-free version because people just don't ask for it. They just say, I want a Coke. When you go to the store, you can probably find cases of the caffeine-free Coke. I recommend that. Well, that gets rid of the caffeine. How about the sugar? There is Diet Coke that's out there. What about that? Do you recommend Diet Coke? Personally, no, I don't. I'm very sticky about this. My wife drinks Diet Coke all the time. She thinks it's fine. I can't stand the taste of Diet Coke, I have to say. I hate the taste. I really hate the aftertaste. I can tell just like that whether you've got a Coke or a Diet Coke. Every now and then, a waitress will bring us our drinks, and they'll get them mixed. One sip out of mine, and I can tell you, oh, this is a Diet Coke. She got it wrong, like that. I can also tell you the difference between Coke and Pepsi. One sip, I can do that. So I'm kind of a cola snob, I'm sorry to say, but that's just the way it is. Anyway, your taste may vary. What I would say is the caffeine-free Coke, it's great. The Diet Coke, you're on your own there. But Coca-Cola itself, it's so easy to drink. That explains why. Look at that beautiful color to it. That explains why it is a worldwide favorite.